Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a sequel to 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy, and is once again directed by James Gunn. Thank God, because he has made this franchise his own. I'm just gonna come out and say it. This guy is doing a good job with Guardians of the Galaxy. In this sequel, we find out that the Guardians are taking random jobs across space to collect bounties, and as they're on one particular job, they find that they are in contact with a certain being called Ego, and this person turns out to be Peter Quill's father. This movie is an action piece. It's also a little bit of a mystery because it's Peter Quill trying to figure out who this guy is and why all of a sudden he's come into his life. And it's actually a really emotional film that centers around these characters and all of their interactions. This is the definition of family. One of the things I really liked about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is, yes, it's an action movie. It's a Marvel film, so you're bound to get a lot of action, especially in the first scene. But what I really enjoyed about this movie is the interaction between each of the characters. There are even interactions with certain characters that you wouldn't expect to be interactions with, and that's one of the things that I really appreciated was how these characters interacted, especially with the characters that you saw in the first film, but they weren't in the whole entire film. And of course, I'm talking about Yondu and Nebula. They're kind of brought into the Guardians team in this situation. We do have interactions between the original Guardians of the Galaxy team members, but it's cool to see other players in the game as well. And one of the many interactions that I kind of enjoyed was Star-Lord talking to his father, Ego. It was really interesting to see who this person was. It was actually really interesting to see if he was telling the truth, if he's actually his father. So there's that doubt in the movie where Star-Lord's like, okay, is this my father or is this just some random guy that's, you know, fooling with us? But it's also really interesting to hear more of Star-Lord's backstory, how Ego came into contact with Star-Lord's mother and how Peter Quill was sired. And we get to see how Peter Quill is also a human, but more of a hybrid. He finds out that there's another side of him, which was a really interesting take on the Star-Lord character in this film. And I just really appreciated how they finally answered the question as to who was Star-Lord's dad and what that other side of Peter Quill was. It was a very interesting take on the character. Again, I love Rocket Raccoon. He's my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy character. It's a raccoon. There's one specific scene in the movie where it's just him, there's no Guardians around him to help him out, and he's taking on a team of bounty hunters, and it was just so cool to see how resourceful Rocket Raccoon is and how he is such a badass. Like, don't mess with Rocket Raccoon. He might be cute, but he will probably kill you. There's also a couple scenes where he's interacting with Yondu, and there's a lot of character development. You see why Rocket Raccoon is the way that he is. And the film acknowledges that Rocket Raccoon isn't perfect. He is, you know, a thief. He takes things, and it's seen through the beginning of the movie and his interactions with Yondu, and there's a lot of character development through that. And that's one of the things I appreciate about this film is it's not just Rocket Raccoon being Rocket Raccoon. They added actual character development in this story, which I really appreciated. There's another character that they added into this movie, Mantis. I really enjoyed her. She is an awkward character. She doesn't have a lot of social interactions, and out of all the people that she interacts with on the Guardians team, she interacts with Drax the Destroyer, one of the most literal characters, one of the most blunt characters on the Guardians team, so you can only imagine the humor that happens there. That was hilarious. And there was a lot of good interactions between Gamora and Nebula in this film because they're obviously sisters. We find that out in the first film. And through these interactions, you understand why Nebula is the way that she is and why there is such a hatred between her and Gamora. It was established in the first film, but you don't really know why there is. You just kind of like buy it. But in this film, it's properly explained. And that's another thing that I really appreciated was it answered another question as to why there is friction between Gamora and Nebula. There is a lot of character development throughout this film and a lot of character interactions that open light to why these characters are the way that they are. That's one of the things I appreciate about it. I actually really like the interactions more than I did the action. The action is great. The visuals are stunning. We saw this in 3D and we absolutely loved it, but I was so invested in how these characters were interacting and how we got to see another light of them. Now let's talk about Baby Groot. There's been a lot of arguments saying that Groot was turned into a baby in this film because to sell merchandise. I'm not going to neglect that because that might be true, but he's a really cute addition to the movie. It's adorable. It's Baby Groot. You can't help going, oh, that's adorable. You're a baby. However, I am going to say that I think they had a hard time making him useful in this film. In the middle and ending of the film, they acknowledge that he's small enough. He can crawl through small spaces, so that's how he is a little useful at the middle and ending of the film. But in the beginning where they're all fighting a giant monster, he's on the battlefield. And no one's like saying anything. Like Gamora says, like, Groot, get out of the way, you're gonna get hurt. But wouldn't it be just smart to just leave him on the ship? Like, literally just not doing anything whatsoever. He's actually just dancing. It's cute, and the audience was very invested in his cuteness. But script-wise, it doesn't make sense as to why this baby creature is, you know, dancing on the battlefield. Like, it's meant to be just cute. But the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, like, one of them probably would have been like, hey, he should probably go on the ship. Like, he's gonna get hurt. Like, that's the only reason why Groot is useful in this film, is because he can crawl through small spaces. He only takes out one guy in the movie. That's it. He literally takes out one guy. There's no fighting of Groot in this film. He's only useful when he's crawling through small spaces. Also, without going into spoilers, I think they finally made a good enough villain that is redeemable in a Marvel movie. When you find out who the villain is in this movie, he is such a bastard. And you just, like, you hate him for what he's done and what you find out that he's done in the past. And it's just, oh my god, it gets under your skin and you're just like, what? You did that? No! Like, when it was revealed what he essentially did, I immediately thought that this guy is on par with Loki. Like, he is evil. He's evil! These are the kind of villains that we need in Marvel movies, where we go, oh my god, why did you do that? Why would you even say that? Like, this guy was evil. This is a very evil villain. I think he's gonna go down in the records as maybe the second most evil person in the MCU. So definitely go check out Guardians of the Galaxy for the villain as well. Also, I want to mention this because I didn't mention this in my review to the first Guardians movie. The 80s soundtrack. It's so good. It adds on to the movie, it added on to the first movie, and it just adds on more to the second movie. Especially the ending, because how they implemented this 80s song in the ending, I was crying. And usually I don't cry in movies. Like, usually when I do these reviews, I say, I almost cried, I almost teared up. I was crying. This was really well done. I usually think that these Marvel movies are getting really bland and they're just gonna get old because they come out yearly, but they're getting better and better and better. Guardians totally blew me away this time, and it was such an emotional roller coaster. I think this is a very, very good Marvel movie. After seeing the interactions between the Guardians themselves, it's going to be fun to see the interaction between the Guardians and the Avengers in Avengers Infinity War. I am very excited to see that. This movie proved that the Guardians are going to be awesome in the Avengers Infinity War movie. It's going to be amazing. Guys, I love this movie. Check it out Friday. It's amazing. Thank you, Mind on Movies, for letting me see this movie early. I really appreciate that. Guys, you should go follow them. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below. And follow Mind on Movies. They're really cool. They do free passes and other prizes, and just go follow them. They're really cool. So yes, guys, that was my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Comment down below what you thought of this movie if you've seen it yet. Like the video, share it, and please subscribe to PixelTalk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, gaming content, and so on. And stay tuned for my spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy. It'll be coming out this week. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.